Welcome back to the second segment of the meeting. So we'll go straight to, we started with what a story is, and we all said beautifully, a story is all about events. And we said a story must have a structure, a story must be real, must be original, and must pass across a particular message. And we came to the impact great story, could cause in your audience, in the mind and head of your audience. And then we look at the power of creating suspense with your story. And we say, once you do that, your audience connects with you. The other emotions that storytelling in danger is whenever you speak about an emotional event, whenever you talk about something very pitiful, something very deep, something concerning suffering, pain, sorrow, love, attention, infatuations, relationship, and so on, you also release another kind of emotion called oxytocin. And this emotion is emotion that moves in the body to create generosity. People begin to connect with you. There's a kind of bonding. For example, if you are, when Toastmaster Jumobi was describing the two people that are looking at each other intensely with all kinds of love, I'm sure some people will be connected to it. Anytime you talk about something that is empathetic in nature, something that shows concern, shows about caring. Like I was listening to a particular movement that is going on, a village in Kenya, the teenagers and the women in particular trek kilometers looking for water. And when they get the water, they now trek back. So one teenager, while coming back from the stream, slipped and broke the water vessel that she has. And because of that, she felt she could not take it anymore. She went to hang herself. It was a very touching story. And when some people went to that village to try to see how they can help them get water, they told them this story and it moved them to do everything possible to bring water to that particular community. So whenever you tell a story that has to do with inhuman treatment, people suffering, showing concern to another human being, people connect with it because everybody wants to do what is good. Most times when I ask people, they say, I want to contribute to the growth and welfare of humanity. Everybody wants to touch another person's life. So whenever you tell a story that touches about how to care, you move people towards you, they connect with you and they bond with you. They want to be part of that vision. They want to be part of that movement. They want to be part of that generosity. So as a good storyteller, while you are maintaining the suspense of the attention of your audience, you should also make them bond with you by bringing in empathy, by bringing in connection, bonding. Find a way to make them bond with you. Tell them something that resonates with all of them and they will want to be part of it. So this is another skill that you need to develop as a good storyteller. The more common hormone is what they call endorphin. Endorphin is the other side of opium. Is something that brings pleasure, that brings excitement. And that's why every time as a storyteller that you make your audience laugh or get them excited, this hormone is released. It's like the hormones of love, it's the hormones of excitement. It makes people eager to listen, it makes people relaxed, it makes them, ready to receive from you. It opens them up. That's why comedians, people go there to relax themselves and to, relax stress and tension in their life. So these three skills, these three hormones are seen as the positive hormones, which as a good storyteller, you must try to develop. One is to create suspense. In fact, a story must have suspense. The second one is empathy. The third one is to make people laugh. Your story must not be boring, must not be too logical, must not be too intellectual. Try to see how you can put humor in between the story to make people laugh. Crack jokes if need be, but be careful how you crack jokes because sometimes they could backfire. So these are the three positive kinds of emotions that you can induce in your audience while you are talking to them. By all means, make sure that your audience connect with you either by creating the suspense, talking to them empathetically, or making them laugh and excited with your story. Don't let your story be all gloomy. Once in a while, inject a particular kind of excitement into your story. Now, there is the other side of emotions, which your story can also create. Now, if your story creates an aspect of intolerance, maybe you are talking about somebody, a rapist, you are trying to create uneasiness in your audience to make them feel that this is a very terrible thing and they must never do it. Once you are going towards that, if that is the objective of your story, you cannot create the other three because you cannot allow your audience to connect and think that rape is a good thing. So you come to this other side of the emotions to release cortisol or adrenaline, which means a fight or flight emotion, by telling them how terrible rape could be, or you are creating a thing of fear, maybe fear of poverty. You want to drive people out of that comfort zone. You cannot make them laugh when you are trying to make them leave the comfort zone of laziness. So you come to this other angle of emotions to induce this emotion. So your story, your choice of words, your style should be to induce this emotion, to move them, to make them sit up, to make them stand up, to make them move. So you must look the kind of words you will use to generate this tension in their body to allow this emotion to move them. So emotions of cortisol and adrenaline is an emotion that causes anxiety, that causes pain, that causes fight or flight, and all other negative emotions that move people away from where they are. So these are the 5 skills with respect to emotional initiation or inducement in your audience. And it is good that you take time to really learn them and know how to invoke them whenever you are talking about your story or narrating your story. Okay, any question on that? Okay, so we now move to what is story.
I have a question.
Okay, please go ahead.
I have a question.
Okay,
I've seen in some speech presentation or maybe some movies. Sometimes when you watch some movies, I don't know, maybe males do cry, but at least some of us females, we shed tears out of empathy or should I say sympathy to the character in question. Some of us
okay,
even cry like for minutes. So now, if I am telling a story that is very emotional,
yeah,
just like if I'm telling a story that has to do with love or romance or something like that, there have to be some kind of gestures. Maybe you put your hand on your chest or you show a love sign with your fingers. That makes you connect to the audience. Now,
yes,
what about if in the process of saying the emotional story and then you have to shed some tears, like sincerely, especially as a personal story?
yeah,
Does that also go through? Is it okay?
absolutely,
Is it okay to
absolutely,
cry?
absolutely, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
very okay to cry. And before you cry, make the emotion so deep that one or two members of the audience will also cry with you. Is very much allowed. That is when you are releasing the hormones of oxytocin, is empathy. You can cry. You can cry. It's a very powerful tool in making your audience connect with you. I remember when I was giving a story about two extreme emotions. And at the end of the day, some people were asking me, where is the man? Where we will have to beat him up. And meanwhile, I just framed these stories. It was a story about rape, and I just framed these stories, but the way I expressed them with so much anger and passion in my voice and my words, and I was moving. How could it be so peaceful? And people were like, where is this guy? We will have to finish him. He must pay for his crime. So when I'm talking about, I'm not talking about just saying, I told him I love him, and then he was just looking at me. No, 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 no. We're still going there. It has to move. I mean, your voice will change. You will change the whole aura of the hall. They feel the impact of how much love you had for him or for her, and how she paid you back and all that. And it has to show. And then before you cry, you pause for like 3 seconds, and then you allow the tears and your words, and as the tears flow, I bet you one or two members of the audience, you'll see them either removing their handkerchief and crying along with you, and so on and so forth. So it has to be, in storytelling, you show, you don't tell, you don't talk, you demonstrate it. Your voice, your tone, your style, your everything connects. That's sometimes I feel this virtual environment is constraining, because I wish I were doing it face to face. You would have, the way the room will be vibrating as I'm talking now, you will feel it. So it's important. You have to. You are describing an incident that meant so much to you. So people want to see it. What happened? What was the emotional connection at that time? And if you can invoke that emotion, how you really felt at that time, bring it in. That's what people want to see. And that's what people want to connect with. You understand? Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Okay, did you get that? So crying is allowed on stage. It's very much allowed on stage. And every other emotion, it has to be expressed maximally. So now we'll go to this element, are just telling us the things that you need to include in your story. Your story must have all of them. And particularly this word called conflict. I will lay more emphasis on this word I called conflict. It is the backbone of the story. If your story doesn't have a very conflicting conflict, your story will not make much sense to your audience. So for every story you tell, the conflict must be very conspicuous. Doesn't necessarily need to be negative. It can be positive, and it can also be negative, and it can be a mix of them. For example, the conflict could be between hate and love, like those Master Muhammad said, Al-Hassan said, or it could be those conflict of choice. Do I choose from the adventure, or I choose from sitting down at home, like Ekaite was telling us, or it could be anything, but there has to be a twist in what was the conflict, the choice, the emotions, the tension, the stress, the panic, the suspense. It has to really, really come out. So there must be a setting, there must be the character, there must be the plot, there must be conflicts. And then there must be the theme, there must be the point of view, there must be the tone, It must be the style. So these 8 elements must be present in your story, or minimum of 5 of them must be there to make your story effective. At least 5. 8 of them are perfect. But make sure you settle these 8 elements before you give your story. Okay, so let's see what they mean in very brief moment, because we are going to another segment of the practical. Setting simply means where and when the story took place. You must be clear. The story took place in Abuja, it took place in Maiduguri, it took place in Calabar, it took place. You must be clear where the story took place and when the story took place. Don't just say one day as I woke up, I just discovered that in 1925, 1989, 1995 in Lagos, while I was in Lagos, something like that. Don't just say a story without a place and a time. The time could be past, it could be present, it could be future, but let it be that there is a time, a duration in your story. The character means who is the protagonist in the story. Protagonist is who does the story concern? And the antagonist is, was it somebody opposing you? Was it somebody opposing the main character? The character could be a person, could be an animal, could be an object, could be anything personified in the story. The main object of the event is the character of the story. It could be anything. It could be anyone. It could be male, female, stone, wood, water, anything, because you could be telling a story about water, but you are actually talking about human beings. You know, that brings me to talking about parables, allegories, personifications, and all those other way anecdotes and other forms of storytelling. You know, it can be metaphoric, it can be allegory, it can be fable, it can be anything which you are using symbols to represent human beings. For example, somebody was using trees to represent human beings. He said the tree went out to look for a king, and they went to meet the vine and asked the vine to be their king. And the vine said, no, I was created to produce wine, to make the heart of the king and other human beings merry. So I cannot leave what I am doing to come and be your king. So from that little story, the tree are representing human beings, and the vine is showing someone who understands purpose, who prefers purpose to just being a leader of a people. So from that little story, the tree are people, and the vine is a particular individual that prefers purpose, pursuing purpose, to just going to be the king over some people. So the character could be anything, you could use any symbol, but your story must wrap around a particular character that is prominent throughout the story. It could be you, it could be somebody else, but there must be a character. And then the issue of plot, like we agreed that story is about events. Plot simply means how many events are contained in your story. What are those events? Now, when you are arranging your event, start with the smallest, and then let there be a point where the maximum event happen, and after that maximum event, every other event was to produce a positive impact or was to end the story. Like I talked about my story of getting admission and then got to the climax when I was told that UI doesn't know me. And then from there, the story begins to wind down and how it ended on how I was able to get my admission back. So there must be an arc, something that shows a beginning and then a climax, and then it starts coming down. So the arc must be like a 180-degree circle, you know, a semicircle. You know, you must start from somewhere, keep climbing, and then just start coming down and then come back to the end. So a plot is, assuming you have one event, so how do you start that event? At what point is it going to climax? And then at what point is it going to start coming down? So your story shouldn't be flat, shouldn't be monotonous, shouldn't be straight. There has to be an up and down, up and down, up and down, suspense and relax, tension and relax, and so on. It has to be like a zigzag. It has to be like a wave. Keep going up and coming down, keep going up and coming down, and so on and so forth. So the plot is a series of events. It could be up to 5 events, could be up to 6 events, all leading to particular sequence of things that happened that led to something else. Like I said, I was in Polytechnic, then moved to University of Ibadan, then moved to Lagos. All these are different events that happened and led to my admission as a student in the University of Ibadan. So the plot is the events and how you are going to arrange them to get the best out of it. Now, like I said, every story must have a conflict. That is a challenge we're trying to solve, a problem we're trying to solve, a difficulty you met, an aspiration, a goal, a passion, a desire. But it must have something that makes that story worth sharing. Maybe you are looking for 500 million naira. That is the conflict. So what happened that you couldn't achieve it? What happened that you were able to achieve it? That is what brings out the flavor in a story. And without conflict, the story will have no purpose and no trajectory. It doesn't mean anything. And if I tell you that I woke up and I ate rice this morning, I mean, so what's the big deal about that? But if I told you that I couldn't sleep throughout all night preparing for this particular training so that I could come and pass at least one information that could be useful, that could be a conflict because it means I did not sleep. So your story must be wrapped around something tangible. It could be a value, it could be courage that you want people to see. Then was there anything that tried to stop you from developing that courage? What was it? Or it could be a person, like someone talked about, it could be an event, it could be about an incident, like someone talked about making the best use of coronavirus and stay at home issue and so on, and so many other good examples that was said. So your story must have something that you were able to overcome, something striking, something beautiful, something that makes the story worth listening to. The relationship, how the love went, did it go sour, then came back to life, or did it go sour and then went sour all the way? What happened? What happened that made you shed the tears? What happened that made you laugh? What happened that brought the turnaround in the whole story or in the event? So the story must have a conflict. The other thing the story must have is a theme. You must share the theme. The theme is different from the topic of the story. The theme could be my courage, my determination to succeed. The theme simply means, why are you telling the story? What is the story about? What are you trying to pass across? What is the central idea or belief or moral or lesson or insight that you are trying to pass across to your audience by telling this story? Like you are going to talk about Badmus, as you are going to talk about women and education, the theme that should be ringing on your mind is education. So why are you going to talk about education? What idea are you going to do? What is the belief that you want your audience to have? Why? What morals do they need to develop to help them become educated women? So your story must have a theme, must have a central idea that you must not miss. Because at the end of that story, that is what you want your audience to have. That is what you want them to go home with. That is what you want them to imbibe. Is it courage? Is it determination? Is it fear? Is it love? Is it kindness? Is it loyalty? Whatever it is, you must make them see why that story was worth listening to because of what they have learned. So your story must always have a central idea that make the story worth listening to. And then this next one is your perspective. You know, some people felt everything is relative. If everything is relative, so what's your own point of view? Why are you saying the story? What are you saying about the story? Who is saying the story? Why is the person saying the story? If you are saying the story, you use the word I. If you are talking about somebody else, so your perspective about courage becomes your own point of view. And you must make that point of view very clear. For instance, you could say, women in the 21st century are going to be much more educated than men. That is your own point of view. And then you might begin to now back it up with so many events, so many actions, so many inactions that could lead to the realization of that your own point of view. And your point of view could be people in the 21st century are going to live longer than people in the 19th century. So why are you saying that? So your point of view needs to be clear while you are telling your story. Now coming to this is one of the most important aspects of your story. Your tone, your tone, your tone, your tone. Is it deep enough? Is it loud enough? Is it flexible enough? Is it nice enough? And I want to advise at this stage, please don't be a public speaker that have not done a voice training. Go and do voice training. I have done it several times. Train your voice is important. You know, I used to do radio programs, or people will call in and say, "Oh, I just love your voice. How did you?" And I'll be wondering in my mind, I'm talking something, you're listening to voice. But this is important. It's very important. Your voice should portray the emotions and should make it very vivid in the mind of your people. It's very important. Your voice must show, you see, the tone is very important. You know, sometimes they call it the vocal variety. It must be clear, it must be there, it must be felt, it must be heard, and it must be felt by your audience. And then finally, for now, because we may still go, is the style. And tomorrow we're still really, really going to dig deep into this aspect of storytelling. One skill that you need is how to describe an event. I think here I will have to give it to the women. Women naturally know how to describe an event. For example, if you ask a woman, how was your day? She will likely not say fine and then end with fine. She will tell you, oh, you need to know what happened in the office. As I arrived by 8:05, I met my boss. He was just sitting. He was wearing red shirt and black trouser and with a blue tie. And we'll go on and on and on. But if you ask a man, how was your day? Well, so boring. Thank God it's over. But if you must be a good storyteller, you must develop the capacity to narrate and describe an event. That is one skill we're going to listen to, we're going to look at tomorrow. How do you narrate an event? How do you describe an event? How do you describe something so vividly that everybody listening to you will feel as though they are actually handling it, they are actually touching it, they are actually being there. It looks so real, it looks so tangible. How do you do that? And then you need to understand some figure of speech. It's also a very fabulous style in storytelling. You must learn figure of speech. For example, metaphor, simile, and hyperbole. You cannot be a real storyteller if you don't know how to use figures of speech. I don't want to talk about grammar. I want to assume that we're all fantastic in the use of grammar. Grammar is of essence, By all means, know how to use grammar. Don't go and use bad grammar. You will lose some of your audience. Learn how to use dialogue in your storytelling. What I mean by dialogue doesn't necessarily mean talking to two or more persons. It could be talking to your audience and allowing them talk back to you. One way you could do dialogue with your audience is by your deliberate movement on the stage. What if you move on your stage and your audience move their head along with you? That is dialogue. Dialogue could be feedback, immediate feedback from your audience. It's very important. When you are telling your story, make sure you get a feedback from your audience. It's very important. Otherwise, you may see some people beginning to use their phones. That's happened to me several times. Somebody is talking and I'm thinking about the next activity I need to go and do somewhere because I got lost in what the person was saying. So as you're telling your story, get the feedback from your audience. Let them speak back to you so that you know that you are communicating and you're actually talking some sense to your audience. So these are the little elements that must accompany your story. First of all, tell us where the event happened. Tell us when the event happened, very important. Secondly, let us know who the main character in that story is. Let us know. Are you using symbols? Are you using animal? Are you using stone? Are you using plant? Are you using human being? Who is the main character of your story? Then what are the events? Where did they, please don't forget that when we talk about plot, we're talking about like a semicircle. You must start, it's like an arc. You must start from somewhere, reach a climax. Very important, you must show the climax of your story and then start coming down. And then the conflicts. What are the challenge? What is the aspirations? What were you looking for? In my story, I was looking for getting admission. And then you could see the whole process of admission, clarification, clearance, confirmation, and so on. Those were the barriers that were trying to prevent me from getting admitted into the university. So what are the intrigues, the circumstances, the challenge, the problem, the hindrances that try to stop the realization of that dream, that goal, that admission, that passion, and so on. So there must be some kind of conflict. It doesn't necessarily mean boxing, fighting somebody, but it has to be like a twist. Love, hate, kindness, cruelty, something of that kind of twist, you know, something of that kind of twist. There must be that twist in your story. There is no movie that doesn't have the main character and the opposing character. That's what brings out the flavor in every movie. There must be that conflict. There must be that hindrance. There must be that barrier that the main character was trying to overcome. So whether it is a history, whether it is a fable, whatever form of genre that you use, this must be present in your story. And then there must be the idea, why are you telling a story? And then there must be your point of view clearly expressed, the vocal variety, the voice training. Please train your voice. Learn how to train your voice. It's very important. Some people will just fall in love with you because of your voice. The distinction of your voice is very important. Please train your voice. Don't just speak. Speak with a trained voice. Make sure you understand how to evoke the emotions by your choice of words. This is what the tone helps you to do. And then your style is also very crucial. So at this juncture, we've come back to our story, our 5 story. So now I would like us to give maybe the same story that you gave the first time, But try to see how you could create the climax, how you could create the tone, how you could create the conflict, how you could arrange them, how you could evoke, is it the emotion of pleasure or pain? Try to see if you can put in any of these new items that we've discussed to make that story that you told us before better. You might not need to construct a new story, or you may, if you can, you are allowed. And if you don't find anything out of these five that you feel comfortable to talk about, you could pick any other thing and talk about it. But one, the theme must be clear. What are you telling us? What's the idea? What's the morals that you want us to go home with? All right. Please, who is belling the cat first? Hello, or should I start calling people? I know this.
Okay, I'll try again.
All right, please,
Okay.
Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Love goes through trials and triumphs. There they were two lovers at the shore of the ocean, gazing lovingly into each other's eyes, hands held together. They looked amiable in their clothes of the same color with their bikes. Little did we know that it was a snapshot of a moment before a trial. The ocean is set before them and they have the island to reach. How do they get there? Are they going to paddle through? Carry their bikes on their head? We don't know. Such is life. You set out to do things with good intentions, with best thoughts in your mind. Will you do it? You don't know. Persistence perhaps might assist you through. The gap between the island and the shore, the sandy shore they stand, is their trial that will lead to their triumph. I'm done.
Wow, wow, wow. Amazing. That was very poetic and amazing. Thank you so much.
It was so nice.
Jumobi.
Well done, Jumobi.
You agree with me, ba?
Yeah, yes. I followed.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
I didn't want him to stop. I was just enjoying when he said I'm done. I said, oh my goodness.
Master of words.
In fact, the dopamine hormone was triggered.
Oh, wow.
That's a nice one.
So Master Jumobi, wow, that was lovely, amazing description. That's very poetic. Well done. Who is going next, please? Wait. Hello, who is going next?
Hello, who's going next?
Please, just speak. This is a training class. The only way to learn is to speak. Just say it the way it comes. Be original. Henry, are you saying something?
Yes, I'm trying to say something.
All right, go ahead, please.
So let me try. Okay, I can't forget the 2008 in Abuja. My principal was to represent Nigeria at a United Nations General Assembly, which is a meeting of world leaders. And as a protocol chief, I was responsible for managing his trip. Based on conventional protocol practice and best policy, he ought to be on ground New York 2 days prior to the meeting, but due to exigency of duty, I had to reschedule his trip. I had to reschedule him to now depart Abuja just a day prior to the meeting with the only available connecting flight to New York. All hands were on deck, sorted out his hotel reservations in New York. His ticket was sorted as well, linked up with my colleagues at our High Commission in New York with the ambassadors on ground to receive him on his arrival. On the fateful day of this trip in Abuja, I got to the airport, and to my surprise, while I got to the check-in counter, I was informed that my bus ticket could not be read on the BA platform. Can you imagine? This was just about less than an hour to his flight. Not knowing what to do, I reached out to the agent who issued the ticket, who lives in Maraba, and all his lines were all switched off. Tried to reach out to his colleagues as well, same issue. Not knowing what to do, I'm totally confused. At this point, my principal called me and told me that he's on his way, already in his convoy, coming to the airport to board his flight, and just asked me simple questions, as in, how was I doing with the check-in? I said, well, I'm almost done with it. But not knowing that nothing has been done because there was no ticket for me to check him in and all that. I got a bit confused. It just appeared as if the world had just crumbled at my feet. I summoned up courage, knowing fully well that in my job ethics, I can't fail on any transaction. So I had to meet the manager of BA, spoke with him, and he asked me to give him some time, that he will get back to me. With all hope lost, I was waiting, and I was called that my principal had about 30 minutes to hit the airport because he was on transit. I went back a second time, persuaded. At some point, to my surprise, he agreed to issue me a fresh British Airways ticket on credit with my card as a collateral. I was so excited because I was wondering what could have happened. I was imagining myself that in the next few hours, the headline will have it that the Minister of the Federal Republic could not gain access into New York because his protocol officer messed up his entire trip. I was so excited I went into action, started his check-in formalities. He arrived, I whisked straight through the security. He boarded and even thanked me for doing a good job without knowing all the trauma and pain I've gone through within the next 1 hour before his arrival. He boarded and departed, but I was grateful that at the end of the whole thing, I was able to secure a fresh ticket based on my persistence and my ability to speak to the manager convincingly, who agreed with me, and he went on his trip, and the logistics of payment were later sorted out. And that was the day I actually learned the importance of having networks of connection and also being persistent to ensure that whatever you do, you try and be on top of your game and the best on it. My boss,
wow. Amazing. Thank you for the suspense. We could feel it. And then the climax too was very clear. All hope was lost, So the audience were like, so what happened? Did he miss his flight? I was waiting to hear, I had to explain to the minister, but you see the twists that now happen and the turns, and then the lesson, the morals you want us to learn was also very clear. Thank you very much for that wonderful descriptive story. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other person?
I have a question.
Okay, please go ahead.
I think there's a thin line between narrative and descriptive.
Well,
may I know the difference?
We'll learn that tomorrow. We'll really learn that.
Oh, nice.
How to describe, how to narrate. Because you could narrate a whole event.
There seems to be an intersection, exactly.
You can just describe a bicycle and you could spend 10 hours describing a bicycle. And you can narrate all the process of creating a bicycle in 2 minutes. But we'll look at the difference and similarities tomorrow.
But what context it might fall into? Is it the narrative or the descriptive now?
I think it was both. Small narrative, small description too.
Exactly.
Yes, so
That's why I got confused.
yeah, I understand. I understand. But we'll see the difference tomorrow. The two of them are very crucial in storytelling.
But can both be used as a blend? Like a blend
Yes,
in
yes,
right.
yes. All the skills could be blended in one story. All the emotions could be invoked in one story. There's no limitations to what you can use. You are free. That's the beauty of originality. You are free to combine any of them in whatever proportion that you want.
All right.
Okay, who is going next? Please try your hands. It is, you see, the beauty of learning is in the doing. Whatever you have in mind, just say it. I'm sure by the time you say it, you become better at it and you just keep saying it. One more person because our time is almost up. Going. I'm doing a bazaar this time. All right, gone. Thank you so much for participating in this wonderful training. It was nice having all of you around, but we want to quickly do something because tomorrow the time might not be very convenient for all of you. So can we please, tomorrow is public holiday. Can we discuss when will be most convenient for all of us to attend tomorrow's meeting? Because I have had complaint that 12 to 2 might not be convenient for some people. So please, the floor is open. What time would you discuss?
Thanks, me, I'm going to work tomorrow.
Okay, so let's discuss what time can we look at? Could we say 10 to 12? Could we say 2 to 4? Could we say 4 to 6?
9 p.m. I mean 8 p.m.
Wow.
Or could we say 6 to 8? Or
By
could we
then we
say
are
8
asleep.
to 10?
Please,
We have
8
5
p.m.
options,
8
10
p.m.
to
We are all
12.
at home.
I will look around 10 to 12.
I was thinking of, you said something like 10 a.m.
At
10,
10
10
a.m. to 12, 2 p.m. to 4, 4 to
Yes,
6,
so
6 to 8,
that from there we can go out and do other things.
or 3 to 5.
Well,
Me, I'll be working 9 to 4. So that's why I'm saying 8 p.m.
Oh, okay. Please, let's agree in the next 5 minutes. We should be done.
And let me ask you, how about 10 to 12?
Sorry, 10 to 12?
Yes, 10 to 12. I think it should, for me, that's what I think should be more.
I also go with 10 to 12 so that by the time you are done, by the time you go to 10 to 12 for me too.
On another call.
Okay, 2 people are on 10 to 12. Who else, please?
Yes, I think the 10 to 12 should be okay.
3 people on 10 to 12.
I won't go at that time. I won't be able to for me. I still prefer the 12 to 2 anyway.
Okay, 1 person 12 to 2.
Yeah, I think the 12 to 2 is
Some
okay.
some people will go to mosque. Tomorrow is Friday.
Yeah, so what do we say?
So it should either be 12 to 2 or at night.
Please, let's do it at night.
Night will little convenient.
Night will be, I hope some people will not be sleeping because by the time you get home, children, other distractions are
This
home.
class is interesting. We cannot sleep.
Are you
This class is
serious?
interesting and interactive. We can't sleep. Yes, we can't sleep.
And 12 is not
So what do we say now? So that we don't drag too long.
Honestly, for me, that 10 to 12 is perfect.
10
We
to
can
12.
go.
10 to 12 have 4 people now. Night have 8 to 10 have 1 person.
And we are 10 in the room.
And we're 10 in the room. So since it's democracy, can 10 to 12 have it? Zainab, what time is convenient for you?
Yes, sir. I used to have other classes by 11 actually online. So that's why it's not too convenient for me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So maybe I'll always be an hour late myself personally, though, but it's fine. I can always catch up.
Okay, Sadiq.
Yes, 10 to 12 is okay.
The
It's about
one.
10 to 12.
I may join a bit late because I have somewhere, I'll be going somewhere in the morning. So maybe I'll be an hour late.
Okay, Marcelina.
Well,
Yeah, and some people are also sleeping by 10 a.m. It's still early.
You still be sleeping.
They should
Oh.
wake up. They should wake up.
That's interesting. Okay, Marcelina, please, can we disturb your sleep small?
Sleep early so you wake early.
Marcelina, let's disturb your sleep small now. Join us by 10. After 12, you can continue.
It's training. My organization is organizing trainings for us. So I usually have these trainings from say 9 to 12.
In the night?
No, in the morning.
In the morning, oh, I see. So what do we do? Jumobi? Marcelina, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Jumobi, what about 10 to 12? Is it okay by you?
Okay, for tomorrow I'll join in about 15 or 20 minutes late, but it's all right. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, let's try.
Let's go with 10 to 12.
Let's do 10 to 12. If
Let's
you
go
can't
with
join,
the
the
10 to
video
12.
will be
Yes, fine.
available for you to watch
later.
after the event. So I have an assignment here. The assignment is...
What of the material?
I will send the materials
What
at
of
the
the
end of
presentation?
tomorrow's
Are you going
lesson.
to get the presentation?
It's after now. After
Yes,
the presentation.
I will send the presentation after tomorrow's class.
Okay.
So please send your email address to the platform, the WhatsApp platform. And then send your name as you would like it to appear on your certificate to the platform too, or directly to me. So your name as you want it to appear on your certificate and your email address, so I can send the materials and the videos to you at the end of the class. Now I have an assignment for us. It could be a huge assignment on one hand, it could be simple. Please, if you have 1 minute, 1 hour to spare between now and tomorrow. If you have 1 hour to spare, there's a movie I watched on YouTube. It's called Surprised by Love. Surprised by Love. I love the movie so much. There are lessons I learned from it. If you can watch that movie between now and tomorrow's class, please prepare a 2-minute summary as your own story from that story. It's a story. If you can watch it, the title of the movie is Surprised by Love. It is on YouTube. Full video is on YouTube. Surprised by Love. If you can watch it, you summarize the movie in 2-minute story and share it with us tomorrow. If you can't, please, you will also be required to share a 2-minute story with us that include the style, the elements of stories, okay? And then the lessons, the moral, the emotions, and other things. A 2-minute story, any story about anything You know, it can be about adventure, it could be about anything, whatsoever you choose, but 2-minute story about anything, and please share it with us. So tomorrow we'll start with a normal structure of a story, how you need to structure your story. Today we looked about what should be contained in your story, but tomorrow we'll look at structuring your story. It's going to be very impactful, and then how to narrate, persuade, describe, and use figure of speech in your story. It's going to be very amazing. Please join the class on time. That brings us to the end, except someone wants to say something in just 30 seconds.
Okay, mine is a question.
Okay.
Can we get the slide for this class? Or is it also merged like the other class? Like the way you merged the slides for the other class?
Yes, it will be one, it was one training, so I don't want to share the slides in bits. So it's after the training tomorrow, I'll share the slide to everyone. And the videos too.
Sure.
Thank you so much for coming. Time is up. Looking forward to seeing all of you tomorrow by 10 a.m. Have a very wonderful evening and a fantastic holiday enjoyment tomorrow. But don't forget also, share your chicken and turkey with us too.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Everyone.
Have a nice day.
And you
That's the
too.
family.
All right. Bye.